Retold is a 2004 Castlevania ROM hack created by Dragon's Brethren that sticks pretty close to the official 8-bit Konami title. A few backgrounds and enemies from the other NES entries have been included, but there aren't many surprises in store when it comes to new content here. The music is the same, the stages are laid out in similar patterns, oh, and there are pits. Lots and lots of pits. Aerial enemies too. So many bats, Medusa heads, and flying skulls. It's a nuisance. The final stretch is absolutely infuriating. A never-ending swarm of infinitely spawning baddies. There are a few extra doors added, but none of them lead anywhere. Some can be busted open for trinkets and treasures, but they're largely pointless. One stage has a branching path, but it leads nowhere. At least it gives you more of a chance to fend off more irritating enemies. I swear it's even a pain to jump and hit candles because there's so much goddamn shit. Alright, so look, I don't like dumping on fan projects. Castlevania Retold is a decent ROM hack by early 2000s standards. It's ambitious, well made, and worth a shot if you're into frustratingly challenging experiences to flex your gaming skills. It's not the toughest thing out there, but the amount of pixel-perfect jumps combined with the constant bombardment of flying foes makes everything feel more tedious than it should be. Again, if you're into this sort of thing, awesome. It's just not for me. And that's okay. Dragon's Brethren posted a few comments in the description for Retold that are self-aware enough to make me believe they know all of this, so I'm not going to bother harping on it. I mean, who the hell am I after all? These reviews are to spread the word, not bring someone down. It takes talent to make something like this, and for that, I applaud these people. These projects breathe new life into older titles, so let's talk about the few things I actually dig about Retold. The colorful levels look really great, and all of the elements borrowed from the other two Nintendo titles are well implemented. Nothing seems out of place or jarring, which is a testament to how thoughtful this person was when rearranging these assets. Yeah, the added challenge is a bit superficial, but if you're a Castlevania pro seeking out a rearranged version of that original classic, you could do much worse. This is one of the more playable ROM hacks of that ilk, even if Castlevania's castle resembles a generous chunk of Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese bubbling browning atop a French onion soup. Swiss cheese on a melted Cubano. Swiss cheese on a chicken cordon bleu. Swiss cheese fondue, crispy, crunchy. Swiss cheese crackers. I haven't seen this many holes in a Castlevania game since Dracula X on the Super Nintendo. Am I right, people?
Cheese is so goddamn delicious.
I like the games with crap tons of death piss.
Salty, bold, creamy, nutritious.
Being dragged down in his own home crypt.
Onion soup, a topping leaves my mouth a-watering. Why are there so many bat traps?
And all I want are Swiss seagull cheese snacks.
Medusa heads, little elf mini-men.
Everywhere, every place, forever then.
Slam a fresh Cubano panino. Baked ham mustard on the go.
4 sliced pounds of onions, they go in a pot of butter. Cook slow in an oven at 320.
For an hour or so until sweaty.
Repeat step 1, stirring hourly. Break them sugars down till meaty. Add some boosted glazier hearty.
Onion soup topped with crispy crustini. Sweet Swiss cheese. Broil it until golden brown and bubbly.
He's sick of the Swiss.
Retold 2 features Richter Belmont in red, with a much more fun and fair stage design all around. From the details I could gather on romhacking.net, this sequel was started by Dragon's Brethren once again, before Googie took over, and I'm digging it. Retold 2 is a fun little Castlevania ROM hack that doesn't stray too far from its source. The music is shuffled, the stages are rearranged with assets borrowed from the other 8-bit NES games, and the first handful of bosses have been moved around. The first level is impressive with its Simon's Quest village backdrop and surprising Alucard boss battle. Did you know Alucard is Dracula spelled backwards and that Mario 2 wasn't actually supposed to be a Mario game at all, actually? It was nice to see a different boss battle here. Unfortunately, the others remain the same with the exclusion of the mummies, as they've been omitted altogether for this one. Another great great feature this first stage introduces is a branching path. This made me hopeful that there would be some light Simon's Quest style exploration sequences sprinkled throughout, or a Castlevania 3 branching path kind of situation, but sadly, similarly to the singular new boss, it only happens here, at the beginning, and unceremoniously leads to a dead end. A nice inclusion, but a bit of a tease since there really are no surprises to speak of in future levels. The rest of this thing plays out like a remixed version of the original Castlevania, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a good rhythm to the combat and platforming challenges in Retold 2. Every enemy is deliberately placed, and the difficulty feels about on par with the 8-bit classic. A few frustrating moments appear, but nothing feels artificially cheap. I've now played through it a few dozen times, and it's simply a joy to learn these new beats. As a Castlevania veteran who considers the first game the best due to its excellent pacing and level design, I've gotta hand it to Googies for replicating a similar sense of speed. Similarly to Super Castlevania 4, our main man is making his way to the titular compound, with many of the levels taking place in the surrounding regions leading up to it. It still would have been nice to see Richter in his blue garb here, but some tweaks have been made to give him a more athletic feel, for better or for worse. No longer do you plummet from platforms like a sack of stones. Walking off ledges while pushing forward allows the player to move horizontally, and it's now possible to leap from stairs, similarly to the way he does in Rondo of Blood. These nifty little changes spruce up the platforming for sure, but one change in particular took me a few seconds to adjust to. Holding the jump button makes Richter leap like other NES Belmonts, but a slight tap sends him off in a smaller arc. It's an odd adjustment that I kept trying to find a use for. At the end of the day, it just feels like an arbitrary inclusion for the sake of shaking things up. It wasn't oppressive or too much of a distraction, just odd. There's an interesting color swap thing going on in some of the later stages with the reds and whites of the life bar. There are also some choppy grounds to navigate, the biggest examples being these underground stairs that can be tricky to ascend, and a few ceiling tiles that obstruct movement. I'm not sure if these pits were placed intentionally, but you sort of clip through the ground without any visual markers, so it's fair to assume that they are accidental oversights. The map screen transitions are still here, but devoid of those great looking background details, which is a bit of a shame. Sub-weapons can be tough to get a hold of unless you enjoy using the knife or stopwatch. I've only been able to find the boomerang cross in one place until the Dracula battle, and it'll take a bit of higher level platforming skills to reach it. Some might find this cheap, and I suppose it kinda is, but personally, it's cool how the game rewards careful players, so I'm fine with it. Enemies still rarely randomly drop items as well, so if you make a wish with a rabbit's foot holding a 4-leaf clover with a horseshoe in your back pocket, maybe you'll get lucky and get a cross or an axe early on. There's really not a whole lot more to say about this thing. It's a well-made ROM hack that I'd recommend to fans of the first Castlevania who want some rearranged levels. The borrowed assets and enemies from the other two NES titles is a nice touch, but ultimately there aren't a whole lot of surprises here after the first level. There's a basic title screen, the ending text has been changed, and a few tweaks have been made to the movement. But at the end of the day, this is Castlevania with a red Richter. Find it over at romhacking.net and leave a review on that website. The last I saw, no one was giving it any love, so be sure to do so if you dig it. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you and couldn't really care less. Next time on this channel, more castles, vampires, and spooky ghouls, so stay tuned.
You're a good cook, Elliot.
The Swiss!